Welcome to Armory Analysis. This is the obligatory "This is just my opinion" segment, so if you've seen this before, feel free to skip to this timestamp. These videos are to eventually cover everything in the Warframe arsenal, and as you can imagine, I don't have a steel path build with every weapon in the game, though by the end of this I probably will. I don't follow the meta of Warframe as I find some of the wackier weapons to be the most fun. Hell, my favorite secondary is actually the Occucore. I may not have the best build sometimes with weapons, but they work well enough, and are usually my best attempt at making them good. Last thing of note, we will be talking about Rivens, however they will not be the deciding factor as to whether they're good or not, as they are not that easy to obtain. That and I don't feel comfortable rating something that I don't have. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. July 7th, 2024. Today we're talking about the Laetum. This thing is still pretty nuts, if you ask me. Let's jump right in. So, this thing has no variants, due in part to the fact that it came out, I hate to say recently, because it's not really recently anymore, but it is still kind of new, I guess. Anyway, that and honestly, it really doesn't need one. Anyways, you get the Laetum from Cavallero on the Zariman, and remember, you will always be his favorite meat grinder. But to craft this thing, you need 1 Void Plume Pinion, 5 Void Plume Quills, 20 Void Gel Orb, 4,000 Ferrite, and of course 30,000 credits. Honestly, not that bad to craft. The only thing that's really going to be a pain in the ass for you to get is the quills. And frankly, if you're at the point where you're getting it, it's not that bad anyway. And it's well worth getting. As for stats on this thing, well, it kind of depends. I will say, as far as base stats, without anything going on with it, you have 2.5 fire rate, magazine at 12, reload of 2 seconds, pretty high accuracy, which is awesome, semi-automatic trigger, 22% crit chance, 2.2 crit multiplier, 22% status. You do have INS, no puncture though. Impact is 64, slash is 96, total being 160. So, all in all, not terrible, but nothing that really stands out. But that's before you do any of the evolutions. See, the thing that makes these things weird, the Incarnate weapons, granted, I'm sure by now we all know what those are because there's so many of them now. There's like, what, 34 of them? Something like that? I don't know. It's a lot. But either way, the thing that makes these things unique is they all have evolutions that make them work in different ways than what they would without them, and I will say in the case of the ones that are adapters as opposed to Incarnate weapons, they just straight up work better than, you know, the variants without it. But in the case of the Laetum, the Incarnate form makes it full auto and also gives it a blast radius to its bullets, which is actually quite nice. And in the Incarnate form, you have a fire rate of 6.67. Accuracy is still very high. The trigger's full auto, as we already discussed. It has a max charge of 216, which I honestly didn't know, but that's good to know. As far as crit and status, that's all the same. Impact of 100 with no slash, which kind of sucks, but honestly, with how much damage it's doing, whatever. Does do radiation damage as well, of 300 damage, with fall off of 20%. Let's dive a little deeper into these evolutions, because after all, it is what makes these unique. So the first one you don't get a say in, you just get the Incarnate form, but to be fair, it's a hell of an upgrade, and to be honest, I don't think anyone would pass that up if they gave you the option to pass it up. Unless they did something ridiculous, like you get 300% crit chance guaranteed or something. I feel like at that point I'd pass it up, but that's just me. Anyway, second level is you get a few options, you get 3, although you get 3 for every option beyond the first, so nothing new there. But your options here are Marksman's Hand, which give you minus 40% recoil. That's the one I chose myself. Do with that what you will. Rapid Wrath is plus 20% fire rate, and I'll be honest, I have considered swapping over to that, but I like having my absolutely no recoil gun. I think it's fun. And the last option is Raptor's Chase, which is plus 50% movement speed while aiming. Honestly, I wouldn't fuck with this myself. I don't really see a point, especially if you have the Incarnate form. Anyways, the third batch of evolutions give you even more options, as always. That would be Lethal Rearmament, or lethal rearmament. There we go. That is a weird word. I've never seen that before in my life. Which gives you on a headshot plus 30% reload speed for 12 seconds, stacks up to 3 times. I use this myself. Awakened Readiness, plus 30% magazine reloaded when holstered. I use this on, funny enough, the Fellerks. I don't really care for it on this one. Mainly because it reloads pretty quick anyway. And the last one is Feather of Justice. Gain 60% aim efficiency while aim gliding and sliding. See, if this worked on the Incarnate form, I'd probably fuck with it. But it does not. Unless they change that. Then for level 4 upgrades, we have Caput Mortem. At least I think that's how you're supposed to say that. Plus 50% headshot damage. Not bad considering you have to get headshots to charge this thing. Then we have Incarnate Efficiency, which is headshots build 50% more Incarnate Transmutation charge. I use this myself because I like, continuously having Incarnate form. Then the last one being Elemental Excess, plus 20% status chance, but minus 10% critical chance. Now, that's all well and good if you want to go status build, and to be honest, I do love me a good status build. Love it a lot. But the final level is kind of why we don't really fuck with that. Now, for the final level, what we have is Devouring Attrition, which is plus 50% chance to deal 2000% damage on non-critical hits. Pretty good if you ask me. Definitely not bad at all. Reaper's Plenty, which is on headshot, plus 40% ammo efficiency for 6 seconds. Frankly, with the first option there, I wouldn't fuck with this at all. Same with the third one, which is Overwhelming Attrition. On a hit that's neither critical nor applies status effects, plus 400% damage for 10 seconds. Stacks up to 3 times. See, what I like about that over the other one is the fact that that can apply and then apply to the critical chance. Granted, I will say, if I ever get a negative crit Riven mod, I will swap over to Devouring Attrition, no questions asked. Because I feel like that with a good status build would be fucking nuts. As for my build, well, I have 2. And those of you that are paying close attention may already know why. But anyways, first build here is for the Overwhelming Attrition. Sheer damage build, I do have Blast and Electricity in there, of course, as well as a slash upgrade. Though I'll probably eventually take that off for something else. As to what, I'm not 100% sure yet. But either way, this does hit like a truck, does quite well. I'll go ahead and show that here. I'm sure I could do better, but frankly I don't really have a need to. This already clears through Steel Path just fine. As for my other build, I lovingly call it Acid Gun, and this is the one that I have set up for that non-critical one. As you can see here, basic status build for Blast and Corrosive. Originally I had it set up for Heat and Viral, but ever since the new status rework I decided to change it to this. This is one of those things where like I don't use it too often, but like I said earlier, if I ever get a Riven with negative crit chance, 100% I'm probably going to turn this into my main build for this thing, because I love status builds, and that just seems like a great time. I have Cascadia empowered on this one as well because of the direct damage based on the status effects. I will say that arcane is one of my favorite arcanes in general, particularly because of beam weapons. I'll go ahead and show this one off here. And as you can see, it's not too bad either. Frankly, I don't really have a opinion as to which one I enjoy better, but I do tend to use the overwhelming attrition one more frequently. So as I mentioned earlier, Rivens are pretty decent for this thing. Granted, it only has a 1 out of 5 disposition. Rightfully so. I know some people would fight me on that, but frankly, I completely understand why this one has low disposition. But weirdly enough, this is one of the few cases where, for a 1 out of 5, I wouldn't mind having one for it. And that's because of the weird case that is negative crit chance. This is one of the few times where a negative is actually the best thing you can have, which I do find really interesting as far as builds go. I think that's pretty fucking funny, but in the best way possible. As you can probably tell, I do quite enjoy the Laetum. It is one of my favorite secondaries, definitely one of my most used as well. As for my most used, I'm not 100% sure, but I will say lately I've been bouncing between this, the dual Toxicist, and the Laetum, because I actually happen to have the Laetum Vandal with the Incarnate on it. Let me tell you, absolute bitch of a weapon to farm. I do not recommend it. Frankly, if you have the Platinum, just buy it off another player. Seriously, save yourself the frickin' time. Oh my god. Anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and spin the wheel. Thank you all for watching. Stay cool out there. It's a pretty hot summer this year. And have yourselves a great day.